Welcome back to the McCowan Podcast. Richard Deitch in for Bob. John Shannon here, and now joined by Canadian Olympian, Canadian World Cup soccer player Diana Matheson, who has a vision of her own of creating a professional women's sports soccer league in our country. Hello, Diana. Welcome.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
So let's cut to the chase. How many teams in your league, and when do you start?
2025 kickoff will be around mid-April. Don't hold me to a date yet. 8 teams is what we're going for across Canada. 4 teams in the East, 4 teams in the West. So the rest of my year is selling teams and building a league.
And have you sold any teams yet?
Yeah, we've got 3 confirmed so far. So we've got Vancouver Whitecaps FC is the ownership group there. We've got Calgary, owned by Calgary Foothills. We've got a club in Toronto called AFC Toronto City. We're hoping to announce a 4th soon here in the coming months. And then we're aiming to be pretty aggressive and lock down all 8 teams by the end of the year.
Diana, first of all, congratulations for getting this far. It's impressive in itself. In reading about your plans, and you can update us if this has changed. As of now, 3 kind of principal sponsors: DoorDash Canada, CIBC, or maybe 4: CIBC, Air Canada, and Canadian Tire. So that's a really, really good start in terms of these big name brands that will back you for however amount of time they've agreed to. Realistically, to launch as you want to in 2025, how many more lead partners do you need to make this happen?
Yeah, we've modeled how we're doing this league off of how UEFA does its Europa League format. So the league is aiming to have a maximum of 8 partners, and then teams themselves can monetize sponsorship at the team level. So front of jersey, etc. That's all teams. So for us, you said it, we've already got Canadian Tire, CIBC, Air Canada, and DoorDash. And I think part of the reason this project is going as is and will succeed is because of the timing and us coming into the market at this particular time. And fortunately for us, Canadian companies and top Canadian companies are looking to get into this space. So the reception so far from these companies has really what has been fueling this thing behind the scenes.
I know that. Go ahead, John, please.
Just when did you first think of this? Was this just something in the kitchen one day over a cup of coffee?
Well, I mean, this certainly wasn't my idea. I think it's been in behind closed doors at cafeterias, at practices for, I'm going to say 15 years amongst the women's national team and the staff. We've known we needed a pro league here. Evan Pellerud was the coach back in 2003 to 2008, and he was pushing for the time for a pro league. So it's been a long time in the works. For me, it was Carmelina Moscato who really planted the seed with me and pointed out the opportunity that exists in Canada and the impact that a league has in Canada. Like, we had the route here of just having a Canadian franchise or 2 join the US league, the NWSL. But when it comes down to it, that's not the way global soccer works. We need our own league, and we need that to be as strong as possible, because that's the thing that impacts the most kids, the most coaches, the most markets across Canada, the most women in sport, the most women in media, et cetera, et cetera. And we know we're world-class at women's soccer. So I think lots of people planted the seed. And then when I retired, I started to try and learn as much as I can to see what the possibilities were.
When you, Diana, I'm sure you've done, in terms of your research, you have a sense of the women's leagues around the world. So you mentioned the NWSL. You know that there is significant talent when it comes to the Premier League teams who have their own clubs. If you go to Paris, PSG has a women's team. So there's talent all over the world. Ideally, in your mind, in 2025, when this league starts, where would the level of play be? Like, is it realistic to try to get a league that matches the skill level of the NWSL, or do you have to sort of think of it in terms of like some of these leagues are like the Premier League, and you want to be like the championship in the English soccer pyramid, or the league right below it? Like, how do you think of it?
Yeah, I would say the short answer there is we're coming in hot. The opportunity here in Canada is we have some of the best women's players in the world. We know that. We have the 3rd largest player pool in the world. And one of the things that's become more and more clear working on this project is the fan base and the market we have pretty progressive attitudes towards women in sport, socially and culturally. And don't underestimate that. Like we're farther ahead than Europe. We're farther ahead than South America. We're farther ahead than most countries you think are right up there with us. So there's a chance here to come in and compete with the other leagues as long as we can drive revenues. And that's what it comes down to. And for us, it's going to be sponsorship key at league, and it's going to be about 40 to 50% at the team level. And then ticket sales and hospitality is going to be about 40% for teams too. And, we're looking for an average right around 4,000 spectators in year one, which we think is a pretty reasonable and attainable benchmark in Canada. And we do that. And we've got a pretty healthy salary cap. And that's what it comes down to. How much we can pay the players and create packages for women's players to come to Canada. That's how we're going to be able to compete in addition to our player pool.
So actually, I was going to go in a different direction, but talking about where the players are going to come from, or is it? We know it's going. One of the goals is to create a place for Canadian women to play and nurture on the way to play for the national team, but other nationalities will be allowed to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And Richard, I'm not even sure I answered your question there. The aim here is to be a top tier league. And I think honestly, coming in, we can be the 6th or 7th best league in the world if we get this right from the beginning. So we're looking at a roster of about 22 players. John, we're looking at 7 maximum international players per team. So the bulk is going to be Canadian, some of hopefully which we're going to try and attract Canadian women's national team players back to this league. And then the youth talent, the future Jordan Heidema is going to grow up playing through this league. So and attracting international players, it's a growing talent pool. Like this is genuinely a new industry. Women's professional soccer has only been around about 15 years. So the player pool internationally is growing. We get to attract lots of players to Canada. And if we have to sell players too, that's football, but we're going to sell them for a pretty penny as women's transfer fees rise as well.
Now, will you allow the teams to go and bid, or is this going to be a league-wide situation where the league controls player acquisition?
For talent, no, we're building the rosters, etc. That'll be on teams.
Okay.
The best practice in leagues right now are having some support at the league level. So we'd love to support international talent scouting. We might have a system for allocating Canadian international players in year one, but other than that, it's going to be teams building their roster.
And one of the, that when it comes to these new leagues that start, essentially, like you have to have some kind of media deal, television partnership in order for it to work. Like even the new leagues that have these partnerships, like if you use like the US as like spring football, the USFL and XFL, even it's been tough for them. They have new deals, but they've lost money like in their first couple of years. When you look at your sort of market research on this, where does your optimism lie in terms of the TSNs, the Rogers, the CBCs? Like, have they shown interest even conceptually? Like, yeah, when the time comes to like create a deal with you, we're interested in this content.
Yes, there's definitely interest there. I would say some more than others, but that's probably true of the category. There's people in businesses in Canada right now that get it, and there's those that don't get it yet. And we're not working too hard to sell the ones that don't get it. There's enough out there that do. Media rights. I mean, when we look at global football, media rights are what drive global football. Like it's like 20 to 60% of league and team revenues in some leagues. And we know the realities in our Canadian media market. And we at our league have forecasted for no revenue, at least through 3 seasons. We might even have to invest in production because we know we want the quality to be right up there. But again, we're looking for growth in the medium to long term, where we can start to monetize this thing in year 3 to 10 through media rights. But yep, definitely interest there. And, visibility is key. You said it. It's important to get this thing in front of as many Canadian eyeballs as possible. So we'll be working hard through the end of the year to do that. And we're lucky we've had former VP of TSN and RDS, Natalie Cook, on board since the beginning, and she's driving our media and broadcast strategy.
Actually, that was my next line of questioning is you can't do this all yourself. But
No,
who yeah, no, I know who have you reached out to say we could use some advice? Natalie Cook's, let's face it, is one of the best and the brightest in our business in our country. So, but who else is out there that's been helping you?
Oh God, it might be quicker to say who I haven't reached out to be honest, John. I mean, I haven't done it on my own since the beginning. I met my current business partner in our MBA course, Thomas Gilbert. So I've had a business partner from the beginning. Natalie Cook was absolutely an early call. Dan Cimarroni at Cimarroni and Company brought on board as well. We've been really lucky to work with companies like Goodman's, Broken Heart Love Affair. It's not an easy project, or sorry, it's not a hard project to get people excited about, especially top women in business. And our approach has been to work with as many smart people as possible in the field they excel at, because we're new to a few of these areas, and that's our approach. Attach as many incredible people as the project as possible.